All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody, happy Friday. For those of you who don't know or who haven't joined in a while, our Friday Military Trailblazer office hours are technology focused, and they usually take two forms. We have our workshop style office hours where you join the call. We have a preset agenda, some kind of use case or task, or awesome admin type thing that we're all going to walk through together. So I'll kind of walk through it. I have everything displayed on my screen, and while I'm doing it, you're also doing it on your screen through a playground or through a dev org or something like that. In addition to that, we also have our kind of standard format, which is just standard office hours where if you have a question, you're stuck on a badge, you're working on a super badge, need help, you have an issue at work, something you can't figure out and you're just looking for some assistance, we're just a forum where you can bring those questions and we will help answer those questions, right? So it could be pretty much anything, whether you're brand new, starting out, just have a basic, admin module on Trailhead question, or all the way to, you're a seasoned developer and you're getting an error in Apex and you need help with that. Across the board, we'll try to help you with anything. And if we can't help you, we'll try to connect you with somebody who will be able to help you, right? So that's essentially what office hours is. So that being said, the format for today's call is kind of an open session. I don't have a pre-scheduled agenda this week, release week for me. So it was a pretty busy week trying to get my own product release out. So nothing that was pre-planned. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Does anybody have anything that they were looking to walk through today, or any questions or anything that we can try to help out with? And I see, Anthony, you have your hand raised, so I will let you go first.
I do. So I'm trying to, in sales or in the Trailhead, obviously getting into sandboxes are relatively easy. But now that I've passed my admin, and I'm trying to play around with a actual tenant for my Rotary Club.
Yep.
And for some reason, I can't figure out how to create a sandbox for that org, that actual org. For then I had the nonprofit success pack for my Rotary Club, but I can't figure out how in the world to actually create that sandbox so I can play with it before I screw up the
no worries.
Screw up the whole thing.
Yeah, so a couple questions there. So this environment that you're working in for the Rotary Club, is this was this an org that was actually issued through like Salesforce.org, like an actual production org, or is this
yes, it's a production org, yes.
Okay, so when you go into that production org and you go into setup, and on the quick find on the top left, if you search for Sandboxes, does that come up in that list? And if you want to, and feel free to if you want to share your screen so we can all kind of look and see what you're looking at. Yeah, for those not familiar with Zoom, you should have a big green button at the bottom that says share screen. And then it's going to bring up another window where you have to actually select your screen and then click OK.
Did you see it? Can you see it or not?
Not yet, no. So there's a second screen that pops up where you actually have to click OK or share from there. There you go.
So I'm in the Salesforce, my account.
Yeah, so
go up here.
Top right, yep, gear icon, go to setup. And then on the left in that quick find, if you type in Sandbox. Okay, and then click on Sandboxes. Now, I'm not sure what they actually offer you as far as what types of sandboxes, but we can actually see that right here. So it looks like you have 30 developer and then 1 developer pro sandbox available. And then it looks like you have 1 partial copy, which is already in use right now.
Well, I tried. I don't know how to I don't know how to get to this thing. I tried to follow through the Trailhead and create one, but I can't get to it. I don't know how
So okay, so it looks like so when you actually start the copy of a sandbox, whatever the type is, we can kind of talk about the types in a second here, but in any case, once the sandbox is actually created, you should be notified saying that it's ready to go. And when you log in, instead of you going to login.salesforce.com, you're going to go to test.salesforce.com. Okay. And then when it comes to your username is going to be whatever your production username is with whatever the sandbox name is after it. So in your case, if it was Anthony at rotaryclub.com, your sandbox username is going to be Anthony at rotaryclub.com.training in this case, because training is the name of that sandbox. So if you were to click on login there, that should take you to the login page where you can log in. There's actually that little login button there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and again, your username is going to have a .training at the end of it.
So after .com, put .training?
Yep, because that's the name of your sandbox, yes. And put a capital T. I don't know if it's case sensitive, but I know the sandbox name was capitalized, so let's just go with that. And then your password is going to be whatever your password was in production when you created that sandbox.
Okay.
Just thinking about it.
Well, hot dog.
And there you go. Now, the key thing to always remember, especially when you're making, yeah, go ahead and verify this, and then I'll go through this. So if you notice in the address bar here, when you look at the URL, now that you're logged into the sandbox, you'll see that -training there. So it lets you know that you're actually in the sandbox environment. And you also notice that there's a bar across the top now, right above like the search in Salesforce there that says sandbox training. Yeah. So if you ever have a doubt as to where you're at, you can look up there either in the address bar or for that bar that's there, just so you know where you're at. All right.
Well, hot dog, I've only been trying to do that for about 2 weeks.
There you go. Now, the just a quick note for anybody that's not aware. So Salesforce gives you several different types of sandboxes that are available. The most ideal, at least in my opinion, is a full copy sandbox, where when you create that sandbox, it's going to be a complete copy of everything that you have in production, both metadata and data. Everything is going to be there as an exact replica. Really great for UAT testing, testing stuff where users can actually see the data, see the functionality you're building. That's great. The second best option is a partial copy sandbox. Now, if you're working on some functionality on the account object, when you create a partial copy sandbox, you can say, okay, when I create the sandbox, I want to make sure that I pull the data from the account object, the contact object, and maybe opportunities. I don't know. So you can specify the objects you want to pull in. And what Salesforce will do, it'll actually pull a subset of those records from production and put it in sandbox, so you always have something there to test with. And then the final options you have are the Developer and Developer Pro, I think is the name. And essentially, that's a copy of production, but just the metadata. So just your objects, just your fields, just your classes and flows and things like that. No data actually gets copied over for those. And you notice that for developer copies, you actually have a lot of those that you can spin up. I think that the number I saw in your org was 30. So if you have a bunch of different developers all working on different functionality, the theory is you can give each of them their own sandbox, they can work independently, and then you can bring it all together in that, either partial copy or a full copy sandbox for testing before you go to production. All right. So I hope that answers your question as far as sandboxes and how to log in and what the different types are. All right.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool. So that's one item down. Anybody else have any other questions on any other topics?
If no one else does, I have one other question, but I'll wait till everybody else says something.
You were the first one to say it, so go ahead.
Oh, no.
You got some.
Tim's got his hand up. We'll go with Tim. I don't want to monopolize the time.
Yeah, Tim. Can't hear you. I think you're still on mute.
How about now?
I can hear you now. Yep.
All right. Just introduce myself. My name's Tim Egner. I'm out in Norfolk, Virginia. This is my first meeting or office hours with you guys. Yep. I'm still trying to log in. I'm in like basic stuff of just trying to log into the Trailhead, and I'm having issues where it's saying like I can't reset my password. It's asking for my password, and like, is there something like I just feel like it's probably a dumb question or
no. I mean, nothing's a dumb question, right? So I think the challenge is it looks like where you're at right now, it looks like you're a professional YouTuber, like recording a video. So I don't think, are you in front of your computer right now, or do you have access to your computer where we can share and we can?
I had to step out from work.
Okay.
I'm still active duty, and I've got a few more weeks before I hit my skill bridge.
Okay.
I'm doing a skill bridge with a company called Allegiant Giving. They're a 501c3.
Nice.
And they basically have access to Trailhead. And then I've got a couple of previous coworkers from the military that have actually signed up with Salesforce, and they were ones that pushed me this direction already. Otherwise, I'd probably be doing this in a few weeks. But I did the Verify Me and all that stuff. And then when it went to sign back in, it was like, it gave me a hyperlink to set my password. Like I got the email hyperlink, and then it said like, cannot log in, username, password incorrect, which I know that it was not. But then I clicked on the reset link and it told me that I couldn't do it because it was just changed in 24 hours. I'm like, I didn't even change it. So
so here's what I would tell you then. First thing is that if you look in the chat, and if you're on a phone, I'm not sure how you would get to this on the app on the phone, but in the chat is my email address. If you can, before we close on the call or before you disconnect, make sure you copy that down or just copy it into your clipboard or whatever it is. And when you have an opportunity, when you're sitting in front of your computer, if you can't do it during this call, shoot me an email. We'll schedule a time and we can go through that together. The biggest issue that I find when you're logging into Salesforce, especially now with all the SSO, like single sign-on, multiple accounts, this trailblazer.me where everything is connected together. There's definitely, I don't want to say it's a learning curve, but there's definitely like, you have to get over that first hump of getting everything connected, and then it should be pretty seamless after that. So like I said, if you want to schedule a time, or if you have an opportunity to get in front of a computer during this call, we can definitely look at it. But it's hard to help troubleshoot without actually seeing it, because there's so many different ways that it could be, giving you an issue. So I guess the one thing I would say is, when you try to log in, are you clicking on that link to log in, or are you going to like login.salesforce.com and putting in your credentials there? And you guys can still hear me, right? Okay, gotcha. All right, so I don't know if we lost him. He's not moving. Okay, so in any case, the login issues. I deal with this. I feel like every day, where I don't even know how many logins I have at this stage. Hundreds. From client orgs, development orgs, testing orgs. You name it, scratch orgs. So getting all that tied into the trailblazer.me, and then it should get seamless after that. But hopefully Tim will be able to join us, and we can walk him through that. Okay, so any other questions that anybody wants to go through? Ruth, yes.
Okay, something happened at work. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but I have never. I was supposed to change the name of a field, and then the field was not required, and I was supposed to make it required. So which I did when I went into, setup, and I went into fields and I changed the name of the field, and then I made it required. Then when I saved the field, it showed up in all the other record types. That field showed up in all the other record types. I don't know why that happened. So I had to go back, edit it, remove the required, went back into page layout and made it required on page layout. Then
I can explain why that would happen. So this is actually, what is this? I mean, going back to the point about having 400 orgs here. Okay, this is one of my scratch orgs that I just created. So just to kind of give you an idea of what you might have been experiencing here. So there's basically there's probably more, two main ways that you can make a field required within Salesforce. You can make it required on a page layout, and then you can make it required at the database level, right? So for example, if I go into setup here, and let's just say that we have a field on opportunity that we'll create called something. I don't know, what are we going to call it? Let's just call it some field, right? So create a new field, and I type in, let's make this a text field, and we'll say this is called some text field, right? Not very creative, but that'll work. All right, so all we did is we created this field, and now let's just say we'll make it accessible to everybody, and I'm not going to add it onto the layout, right? So I know that the layout I'm using currently is opportunity layout, so we're not going to add it to any of our layouts, and I'm going to save that. Now, what you'll see is that if I go back to that opportunity and we refresh, as you would expect, we're not going to see that field there. right? Because it's not required. We didn't add it to the page layout. It's not going to show up. Now, when you make a field required at the database level, though, that basically says that every single record that gets created of opportunity, every opportunity that gets created, it has to be filled in. There's no option. You cannot create an opportunity record without this field being populated, right? So because of that now, Salesforce is actually going to enforce this field being visible on every one of your page layouts. It's going to put it there without you telling it to or not. So when I click save there now, by making that required, if I jump back to the opportunity and refresh, you'll see, in theory, and caching aside and everything else, we should now see that field is there, right? So it is now a required field on the layout. So what the better option might be, if you didn't want this to be required across every one of your record types and every one of your layouts, probably the better option would be is, instead of making this required at the database level, just make it required on the page layout, right? So, and what you'll see is if you already did this and checked that to be required, when you remove that required, one of the results is now it's still going to be on your page layouts. Like if I go back here and refresh, you'll still see that field there. Because what Salesforce does is if you make it required at the database level and then remove that required checkbox, it's still going to be required on all your page layouts. So what you would have to do then is go back to each one of those page layouts and remove that required field now. So for example, if I go back here to my opportunity, you'll see, well, I would expect to see if I refresh here, let's see. So if we look at, oh, I didn't, yeah. So because it wasn't already added onto the page layout, it's not going to be here now when I remove that requiredness. So yeah, I think that was probably what you experienced by making it required at the database level. It'll automatically add that field onto every one of your layouts for you to fill out.
Thank you. I thought it was strange. So
yeah, just for making it required, it's going to put it on any layout, whether you explicitly put it there or not.
I think also if you use a dynamic form, you can remove the required field. I've done that in the past, so you can definitely do that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So dynamic fields essentially, unless something dramatic has changed over the last couple of weeks, that's for custom objects, right? The dynamic fields or forms. I think I don't know if we can do that on an opportunity yet.
Yeah, that's correct. It was on custom. Not sure about standard object.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. So I wonder now if we had here. Let's just to kind of test this out real quick. I'm going to share my screen and let's give that a quick test. And especially if nobody or if somebody's not familiar with dynamic forms, it's actually a really slick piece of functionality. So let's see. I don't even know if I have any custom objects in this this dev org here. You know what I do? I have resource. Let's go with the resource object. Okay, so
and I just tossed into chat the architect guide for building dynamic forms. They said that their long-term goal is to deprecate page layouts and go dynamic forms all the way. So definitely a good thing to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you can see here, I have this resource object, with a bunch of fields on here, and these are all coming from my page layout. But if I were to edit the page here, you can see this will take us into our Lightning App Builder, and let's just say that we want to put some fields, in a tab down here, some fields at the top. What I can do is I'm going to get rid of that page layout. And if you see on the top left here, we have this fields tab. So I'm going to click on fields, and you have a field section, which you have to add first. And then you have all the different fields you can add from that object. So cool thing is I can go, let's just say on this wider section here, I'll add a section. I'll give it a name like, primary fields, something like that. And I can put in our resources, let's just say their name and user and maybe team over on this side. And then over in this little section, I'll add another little section here. We'll call this like utilization fields, which I think that is not spelled right. Let's see. There we go. Okay, and in that section, I'm going to make this a single column. And in that case, I'm just going to put like our weekly target min, weekly target max. So you can see, you can actually get your fields and kind of spread them around your Lightning page. And when I save this now, and when we go back, so when I go back here, you can see now on this layout, we'll have just those fields in those sections, that you specified. Now there is one thing to be aware of this. when it comes to these dynamic fields and the dynamic layouts. Let me just make sure I let that person in. There we go. All right. So one thing to keep in mind here, and this was perplexing to me. I wasn't really familiar with dynamic forms. It took me like an hour to try to figure this thing out as what was going on. If you just add these sections here, but you also have your record detail page. Now, again, maybe this has changed recently and it's going to make a liar out of me. But if I have that details page here, and I also have dynamic forms and dynamic fields and things at the bottom, when you go to edit this resource, you're not going to get all the fields from your page layout. The fact that you have dynamic forms here, it's only going to give you the fields from those dynamic sections and fields. So if I were to edit this, let's see if it makes a liar out of me. There you go. So now it's only giving me the primary fields and only the utilization fields. In a related story, if I were to create a new resource now and click new, I don't get the full page layout. I only get those fields from that dynamic form that we just added manually. So something to keep in mind, if you add these dynamic sections and you expect to be able to create records or edit the records and be able to see all the fields, you can't do that unless you add all those fields onto the dynamic form on that Lightning page. So any question there as far as dynamic forms? I think it's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing. I can't wait till they roll that out for standard objects. But any questions there?
Just one other thing to add to them. I'm not sure if this is what you guys have done, but you can add the same field multiple times using those dynamic forms, and you could set component visibility on it the same way you would set it for any other Lightning Web component. So, I'm working with an organization tracking payments. So we have 2 sets of fields. Whenever payment is paid, you cannot edit these fields. Whenever payment's not paid, you can edit it. So a lot of really cool stuff you can do with those.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is I feel like Salesforce sometimes they put out great functionality, and I always get excited about stuff, but then I always look for the there's the gotcha. And I think dynamic forms is definitely one of those things where it's like, oh my God, this is amazing, but it doesn't work for standard objects. It's like, come on. So hopefully, in the upcoming release, they'll put that out there. Then I got to start stressing about packaging this as part of a managed package, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so let me just jump over in the chat real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything here. I did see a question here from Patty. Could you please explain something about DevOps, Copado, both same or any inputs, task lists, or so? I get a requirement in their job descriptions. Is anybody familiar with Copado, if I'm pronouncing that right, that can speak to that or answer that question? I personally can't speak to that question. What I can do is I can take down a note, and if we want to follow up afterwards, we can on that one. I did also see a question here about how do I keep track of all my passwords. A couple of different ways actually, or a couple of different ways to manage access to my orgs. One way for most of my dev and testing orgs that I have, most of that is connected through SSO through Environment Hub. So if you're not familiar with Environment Hub, I can show you very quickly what that looks like. Let me just make sure I hide all my private stuff here. There we go. So if I share my screen here, you can see that this is my Environment Hub, and these are all the different orgs that we have. So we have proof of concept orgs, we have demo orgs, development patch orgs, all this stuff, all these different orgs that we have as a ISV partner, Salesforce, that we manage our testing and development. So for these, if I ever want to log into one of them, I can go just click into that org name, and then I'm able to just click login, and through SSO, it just logs me right in. So that's one way. The other way is for day-to-day development. I use Scratch orgs. So for those, again, that's through VS Code. I don't ever use username and passwords unless I'm trying to let somebody else access it. But in that case, I just click org login, click the button, and it logs me in. But to get to your actual question, what do I use for the passwords and usernames and passwords for stuff that I actually need the username and password for? We use LastPass. So I use that. I've been using it for years now. I use it not just for work, but also for all my personal stuff as well. And for personal stuff, it's actually pretty great because I have like the family account. I forget how much it is, but for the family subscription, I have like a managed family of myself, my wife, even my kids now, because they got Roblox and Minecraft and all these passwords I got to manage too. So we have that all in the family account. You can actually share passwords among users. So like our bank login, I share it between myself and my wife, and then I have all my personal stuff, like all my Salesforce logins and Facebook and all that good stuff. So yeah, LastPass, if you're not familiar with that, put the link in the chat, lastpass.com. And I think that's really great. Let's just see. PDF docs for emails. Okay, so Anthony had asked a question here in the chat too. Love to learn how to add PDF type documents for emails. So Anthony, can you speak to that as to what you were looking to do?
Yeah, so I have for Rotary, they have a PDF that's like 10 pages long, but it's all about like why Rotary, and it can be broken that out into like 2 different sections, so 2 different pages. Well, my goal would be if someone's curious about Rotary, I want to be able to set up the flow so where here's 5 different emails that I'm going to send out on a time, set up to do that. I can't figure out how to add even my logo. I had done my logo at one point, and then I went to go back in and do it and add different media pieces to make those emails look more dynamic. And I am hitting a roadblock as far as how to do that. So I thought I would just ask you. So you fixed the last one in like 2 seconds. I figured maybe in 3 you could help with that one too.
So question, this email automation that you're doing, you're using Flow to do this?
I'm not yet. Right now, I'm just trying to create the emails first so that I can go into Flow and put them in. Yes.
Okay. So
I'm trying to do the email templates first.
Yeah. So I'm going to preface my answer to this, and then we can open up if anybody else has an answer. But I'm going to preface this by saying that lately, any of the emails that we're sending out to our clients, whether they submit a form or anything like that, everything is going through Pardot, which is like on a whole different level compared to standard just flows and email templates and things like that. So I'm definitely not an expert anymore on emails and attachments and things like that. But what I can say is it should be possible. And I remember doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm back in my org here, and I'm pretty sure that if we go into templates, are you using the Lightning email templates or classic email templates? Or have you not done it at all yet? Or
sorry, I'm trying to use the email, the Lightning templates.
Okay, let me see if I can turn this on in this org, and then see if we can run through a quick example real quick. So let me refresh here. Let's see. All right, so let users Lightning email templates. So I'm pretty sure I should be able to just go to email templates here, and I should be able to create a new email template. And again, I have no idea what I'm doing here, so just be aware of that. So test email template. Yeah, let's just say that we're doing this as part of like the lead object, like somebody submits something, it creates a lead, and now you want to generate an email. And we'll say test email subject. And then this is kind of the builder. Now, I think you actually want to attach a PDF file to the email that's going to go out.
I want that to be the email that goes out. So I want to have my logo on top, and then the PDF actually be the email.
Okay, so I don't know if you'd be able to do the PDF as the email unless you would actually come in here and actually take the contents of that PDF file and actually put it in the email message itself. Okay. So, if anybody else has any other feedback on the better way to do that, I'm all ears here. Spencer, if you're speaking, you're actually on mute.
Are you generating a unique PDF for each individual, or is it going to be the same PDF attached to all of the templates?
It will be the same. It will be the same PDF.
Okay. We should be able to attach it. I know if you have a file related to the object that the email template is supposed to be attached to, when you go to select the email template to send, you can select to add files, and you can select any of the files that are related to that object, or any of them that are stored in like your asset library.
I can't figure out how to get the files up.
Look.
So Bill's doing all this great stuff in here. I go to my little Lightning email template, hit on, and then it just doesn't, I can't even get
Yes.
into where you're at, Bill.
Yeah, so you might have not noticed this when I did this. Here, let me. I'm assuming there's got to be a save button. So, oh, I got to move you guys out of the way. Sorry. There you go. Okay, so yeah, I went through that pretty quickly. So from within setup, I was a little perplexed at that as well. So when you go into, you do the email templates.
Yep.
You'll see Lightning email templates comes up, and well, it should actually. Let's see, where is it? There we. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so from this screen, you turn it on, and then nothing happens. I was expecting something else to pop up here, but what you need to do is, if you click your app launcher and type in email templates, you'll see that tab now is available to you. And if you click into that tab, all I did was click on the new button to create a new email template, and then I started editing it, which is what you see here. Yeah. So again, this might not be any, attaching a PDF file or anything of that nature, but you could build some pretty dynamic looking templates just by creating them here through Lightning email templates.
And then how do you upload documents? How do you upload pictures and stuff to use in your you just click on the picture button?
Yeah, so for pictures, yes, you got that little picture, insert an image into your document. You can either upload it from your computer or from somewhere that you have it within Salesforce or on the web. Documents, that's a whole different thing. I don't think that you can attach a document to an email template so that when it goes out, it automatically attaches it. It might be something you could do through Flow, but again, I'm not familiar with that. I haven't actually done that.
Okay. This is way better than what I have, so this will be excellent. I'll just tweak it from here.
Yeah, no, what I'm going to do just to...
So I will say, I know for a fact you can with the classic email templates, and I'm fairly confident you can it with the Lightning ones as well. I think it might be in the related list section.
Yeah, that's a great
attachments. But if you go to just classic, at the very bottom, it will say add attachments to this classic email template.
Great point, Spencer. Yeah, let me actually show you that, Anthony, just because this is I think the last time I was just sending emails outside of Pardot, I think I was actually using classic, and there's like a hybrid option here. Custom. So I'm going to use actually, if you're going to put your logo and stuff as a letterhead, you might want to go to that HTML option. But just for now, I'm going to do custom without using any kind of letterhead. And I can give it a name. So I can click here. So classic template example. We'll give it a subject. This is whatever, right? Check available for use. Obviously, you would want to create it and make sure it's good before you would check that so you don't accidentally blast it out to all of your people when you're not ready. But in any case, when I click next here, I would have expected it to go to the next screen. Let's see, did I do anything stupid here? Okay, any second now, it's going to go to the next screen. Let's try this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now you can actually build your email from here. And let's just say I put in some, put in some gibberish here, and I click next. And I eventually get to, copy the text from the HTML and go save. Once you get to the screen, after you've saved it, I believe down here, this is where you can actually then attach the file. So that's a great point, Spencer. So you can build your HTML email, put your letterhead on there, everything that you want to do, and then attach documents here so that anytime this classic template is being used, it'll attach that file as well. I have no idea if there's any limitations like size or anything like that on the attachments. I'm sure that a quick Google search could reveal that, but this might get you where you need, whether it's through the Lightning templates, building it out yourself, or putting attachments here through the classic email templates.
Excellent. Thank you guys both.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, any other questions then? I'll open it up back to the floor. Okay. Let's see. Alex, did you have a question that you wanted to go through, or do you want to hold that for another call? Sorry to get you while you're chewing. So you're eating there.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. I figured we'd wait until the session's over.
Okay. All right, no worries.
I got some more info on like what we talked about last Friday. I actually emailed you, but this week has been so crazy. I actually emailed you this morning, so it's no big deal. We can wait.
No worries. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or any things that they wanted to walk through them? Across the board, no topic off the table. So what we got so far?
You got time for CPQ?
Yes. No, I will tell you, I am absolutely not an expert on CPQ. But you got a specific question, and maybe somebody else on the call might be able to help?
Yeah, you know what? I got an ask, and man, I felt like, man, I've gone through CPQ. I feel like I'm like expert now just by trial and error. But Bill, my question really is on: has anyone here dealt with, or basically, we have the product, right? And we have the product code. You basically have like the compact list, or you have on how it's formatted. My ask is, there was a request by the business to kind of put a remark section below the product name, or the product name, product code, and product description. So in addition to the product description, they wanted to have like a sub tab. Does anyone know how to configure that? If it's even available, if it's out of the box?
Is anybody on the call a CPQ expert or plays one on TV?
It's been about 2 years since I've done anything with CPQ. I've got some resources I can toss in chat, but off the top of my head, I can't remember where that's specifically at.
Yeah, and so it's not so much the metadata; it's more the reference data. So it's really kind of on the config itself. I'll show you, because I think if I show you,
I was going to ask you if you could show it. Maybe we could try to find somebody that might know.
So hold on, let me get my login. Yeah. By the way, if you've never done CPQ, what you do in Sandbox is not replicated cannot be pushed to production.
That's cool.
Of you. I had a rude awakening a month and a half ago. Here, let me share my screen real quick.
You have to accentuate the positive, right? CPQ lets you practice your manual deployment steps. That's good.
Well played, sir.
Yeah, we did a lot of VLOOKUPs and a map IDs over. Nightmare. So
please, guys, this is my production org, so do bear with me here. So if, for instance, I have this quote, and one thing I kind of note, well, that's more of I digress. But if I was going to show and preview this document, what the request is looking at this. That's always kind of funny that you were talking about the email templates there, Bill. There's some of this stuff here is very interesting. So below this, so you have the quantity unit measure product code. So what you would do is so let me see if I can break this up a little more. So what they're thinking is about potentially putting almost like this line here, but below an additional product. So you can actually have like this large text field. I don't know if it's worth doing the HTML markup on the quote template, right? Doing the quote line editor and then marking the source code, because I know you can go to it.
Yeah, I was going to say this looks very similar to what we would do for our our quote templates. If you actually go to that quote template, could we just take a look at that, if that's the same as I don't think it's the same, but is it similar to what I would do on a standard quote, like building that template?
Yes, it is. But then what you do is you would go to, for instance, it's funny you mentioned template. This is going to be template content. It's not going to be quote template. It's going to be template content. So this is something you'll run into this. This isn't what you think it is. So you go and you build that out, right? So right here on the body. Yeah. It would be on the body, and then you would edit this. And I take it back. Where's quote template? Where did I go? Go to the body. All right. So if I go to new, it's not going to do it. I know what you're asking me, so it'd be similar to this. Yeah. So if I go to the source code and I go to the body, right? So guys, also you got to hit source code. Yeah. And so I was thinking the same thing, but that's not really out of the box. And really kind of build basically a table below each single one. And I didn't know if the juice was worth the squeeze. Yeah, honestly, I personally don't know if that's something you can do out of the box, but if you have access to the template itself, I guess, where's the actual part where you have the different quote line items?
So
It's actually sitting on the body. So what ends up happening is that on this body, this is
Yeah.
an out of the box functionality.
okay.
So if you get this body, you really cannot manage. It's a managed package, so you cannot edit this.
Okay. So you don't have the same level of access to that HTML on the body section that you do on like the header and everything else.
No, you wouldn't, because what you end up doing is you'd say, okay, I want to be able to do an HTML, right? Or you can say the template top, which was the top portion, right? And then the quote line, the quote
Yeah.
terms. So you'd have to select HTML.
What's that?
continue.
What was that line items option that was there?
So if you go to that's the quote line item. So you continue there.
Okay,
That
but
would be- that would be
again,
the
this is
center.
something where you can't modify like that portion. So
No.
each template line item, you can put like different HTML that you would want to display for that.
Yeah, and initially what I thought was I did the cover letter, basically the body of it.
Yeah.
And I had to do the markup for it. So again, I can create this table here, with breaks and tables, et cetera. But I didn't know if anybody had experience on here with CPQ where, you can basically put a remark section below each product line.
Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that. If you want to drop your email address in chat, if you want to chat to me privately or just drop it in the chat there. I do have somebody that I work with that anytime we have to touch CPQ, like one of my partners that is familiar, so I can at least reach out to her and see if she has any feedback there. My initial feeling was like, if you can get access to the HTML, is there a way that for a particular column in the quote line items, you can put a certain CSS class on it, and then in that class somehow adjust it so it's underneath? I don't know, but yeah. I can definitely reach out to her and see if she has any feedback on that.
Well, the other thing was too is which I agree with you there. So I knew that when you create it, you can select which one which way you want to go. Unfortunately, these top template, bottom template, quote terms and line, these are managed packages. So the secondary question I was going to ask this is, can I actually clone the managed package in order to configure?
Yeah, have you I know results may vary, but have you tried to submit this question to Salesforce, like to a case or something?
No, because it's a managed package. I just figured, I don't know if they would. I didn't know. To answer your question, no. And the reason I didn't is because if it's a managed package, I don't think.
Well, when you say it's a managed package, this is the Salesforce managed package, though. This isn't like another company's product, right? This is like the Salesforce managed package or CPQ.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, if they own it, then I think they would be able to at least speak to it. It might be worth trying to submit a ticket, but yeah, like I said, if you can shoot me your email address, I can try to connect you with somebody that might be able to help as well, that's familiar with doing development work within CPQ.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And as for cloning a managed package and overriding some of the custom functionality in there, I've only seen that done once, and it was with a Salesforce.org product. So the source code was openly available. It was one of the EDA features. So we disabled it in our org and just took the code and created brand new Apex classes that just copied and pasted the code in there, made the changes we needed, and then deployed that over just to kind of take over the part of it. But I don't think CPQ is open source in the same way that EDA and NPSD are, unfortunately.
Yeah. Application logic, that's one thing. I will say that giving customers the ability to modify UI functionality, whether it's columns that are displayed or adding their own color styles, things like that, any ISV partner that's worth anything should give their customers the ability to do that. So my product that I built allows you to customize UI components. So
I hear you. That's why I was like, man, it seems like
Yeah.
I basically sold the business to guys. It may not be worth it, maybe just putting stuff in the description, right? But even having a description box on the configuration is pretty comprehensive. Right?
Yeah, if you have a lot of text and you wanted to put that on the second line, taking up the full width, if you try to add that as a column, it just smushes everything. That'll make your stuff, your quote super long. I can see how that could be a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely see if I can wrangle somebody up that might be able to help you on that.
Okay, I appreciate that, Bill.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool. Any other questions then on any other topic, CPQ or otherwise? Just real quick, one final note on CPQ. There was a time, probably like 10 years ago maybe, where you could be like a Salesforce expert and know everything there is to know about Salesforce. that is not today. I mean, there's just so much you have to know, like Tableau CRM, CPQ, the basic platform, marketing cloud, service cloud. I mean, there's just so much to know. It's hard to know everything these days. So, being able to find these folks in your, in your list that are experts on each individual piece of functionality, it's great to have those in your back pocket. So
I will throw it out there. I'm more than happy to help anybody who is going through a CPQ implementation, because I've learned a lot, and so I will teach you and I leaned on somebody else too, but I'd be more than happy to show you some best practices. Things to ask the business. So if you need help, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share my wealth.
Now, like I said, I'm not familiar with CPQ, but what I will say is that, when you talk to people and they're doing implementations, they're like, yeah, we're implementing Sales Cloud, or, we're implementing Pardot. When I hear people talk about CPQ, they always seem to say, I'm going through a CPQ implementation. Like it's something like a major emotional event that they're going through. Like, I'm going through it. I hope I get through it. So interesting note there. Okay, so any other questions across any topic that anybody has?
Hi, Bill and everyone. So I have a basic question. I type it on the chat as well. So I'm applying to a consulting firm, and I need to write down a checklist for myself as what kind of skill I have, right? I mean, for admin, it's easy. Basically, you can just find any job description as an admin, or even I can pull down the list.
Yeah.
But for consultant, I'm not too sure what would be the basic skill set. Like, you're not going to be setting user. So that's the part that I'm stumbling. I'm not too sure how do I build a checklist. Does it make sense, my question?
Kind of. Let me say it back to you and see if this is what you're asking. So essentially, if I was going for a new position as a Salesforce admin, and I was going to build like a checklist of what skills I have, I could put various things about, like I know flows, I know opportunities and quotes and things like that. Is essentially your question, if you were going for a position as a consultant, what would be that kind of list of skills that you might want to document out or identify?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess, and again, there's probably somebody that's more of an expert on this than me, but I guess if I had to take a quick stab at it, I guess it would really depend on what type of consultant that you're going to be. Is it for a specific like cloud, like a Sales Cloud consultant or a Service Cloud consultant?
This is actually unknown, because how should I say it? So there's a person approached me and asked me, am I interested in this kind of position?
Yeah.
And he works in that company. So he would recommend me into a program with no information whatsoever. It just said to me is the entry level position.
Yep.
And is a known kind of known middle tier global consulting company. So I was very excited about the opportunity, but I have no information about the program whatsoever. And he told me it's a new project in the company. That's all I know. So I have nothing to look at to reference.
Yeah. So what I might suggest then, you could probably go the generic route in that case then, right? So if you are familiar with various Salesforce functionality, you can highlight that. I always think it's a good idea to highlight the generic, like the problem solving or the organizational skills, the project management skills that you might have. So when I think of a consultant, I think a lot of times, like when you're going, for example, my team, when they're doing consulting work and they're going into a client org to do some kind of services, a lot of times the technology stuff, that's the easy part, right? Once you figure out what they need, you can Google it, you could ask people, you can do whatever you need to do, but the technology part, I think, is the easy thing. Getting to the point of understanding what it is that they want, I think that's a lot of times the hard part, like knowing what questions they ask, managing the project, managing all the takeaways, the coordination. So maybe that would be something to emphasize if it was a generic kind of consulting role, the management skills, things like that, more generic type skills that would apply no matter what type of role that you're being put into. But again, I'll open it up to anybody else that might have a better answer there.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah. Anybody else have any feedback there as far as what you might highlight for a position like that?
Can you hear me?
Hey, yes.
Yeah, so we hire new consultants entry level, and most of the time, you know, I've talked to some of the directors here about sort of what they're looking for, and what I typically hear is good attitude, people who aren't, you know, they're not expecting people to fully understand every nook and cranny of the platform. Nobody knows all of that. They're looking for people who are willing to go out and actually find out how to do something. So I think that there's a lot of just kind of looking for people who are ambitious, people who, because most of the time we're talking to clients like they have very unique situations that maybe no one else has had before. They don't know the answers. We may not know the answers, but we need to be able to go out and figure it out. So I think if you can highlight the fact that you're a go-getter, that definitely helps. Being able to define requirements, write user stories, be able to articulate complex problems in easy to understand ways. But I think when we're hiring new analysts most of the time, they're not looking for technical skills really at all. They're looking for someone that we can teach and get them up to speed.
Yeah, I can, you know, to Spencer's point, man, from somebody who just hired a couple analysts, you know, and from I was at a boutique shop for consultancy, right, for Salesforce. Pearl, I think what you're missing really is, to Spencer's point, it's, do you have the ability to actively listen, right? Or do you have the ability to not want a solution, right? So do not solution. Listen to what the customer's saying, repeat back to them. It's not about what you know. It's like, are you willing to know the processes and procedures of the company that you're currently going to be at? And do those align to what you want to do? So one of the things that, you know, that I actively look for in analysts and people that are trying to come onto my CRM team is, can you critically think, right? Can you ask probing questions that are not invasive, but give you some of the solutions, right? Or so give you some insight. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on some of the certifications. I put a lot of emphasis on application and experience to the, you know, it may take you an hour to get to there, but can you get there, right? And so to your point, right, the questions that I would ask is like, okay, what's the current processes and procedures to get some of the requirements from the client? You know, is there documentation in place already? You know, do I have to source that myself? Is there customer success managers in place to help you? Is there some form of mentorship within the organization to kind of help you grow those skill sets? Because I think you're focusing a lot of attention on what you don't have, and you're not focusing attention on what you do currently have. And so, me personally, I would say focus on, you know, your critical analysis, you know, your analytical side of it.
Thank you.
Spencer brings up a good point. I mean, it's not the technical side will come. Like, this is by trial and error. You'll learn.
Okay, thank you, Spencer.
Another thing to mention. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm just saying thank you, both of you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, and then I do have one more thing to maybe add. So I know one big thing that we focus on in particular is when we're interviewing people, we're supposed to make sure that they are answering their questions in the STAR format. And we have a little grading scale and we grade them on how well. And so don't just say that you can do something, tell a story about how you've done it, or even if it's something that's like tangentially related, as long as you can present a compelling story, because that's half of what the job is in consulting, is being able to talk confidently about what's going on. So make sure when you're answering, you kind of have the situation, ask. I don't remember what A is.
Situation,
result, action, and result. Yeah.
There you go.
Like, what did you do? How did you do it? And what was the result of your action?
Okay. Is it possible I get your contact email address if I need to ask further question. Is it okay?
Sure. I mean, my email address is in there. If anybody else, wants to shoot Pearl their email address privately through the chat, feel free to do so. And then Pearl, obviously, if you ever have any kind of questions, you can always go through the community, the VetForce community. If you're a
Right.
member of the VetForce community, otherwise you can just shoot an email.
Sure. Is Spencer, would you kind enough to share your email address with me, if I may ask? Thank you. Got it.
Yeah, just toss my LinkedIn and chat there. Happy to connect and talk to anyone who wants to.
Thank you. Because I'm very I don't have enough experiences. I only have a few months CPQ internship experience, and then I work with an ISV for a month or two, but it's just basic marketing role. So I'm not really sure about the consultant routine. I mean, I do a lot of try badges, but it's still not like a real life work experience. So thank you so much for all the information. Thank you.
I will tell you, Pearl, from talking to other hiring managers, what they're that have Salesforce experience, what they're doing is they're looking at super badges, right? Can you effectively go through because a super badge is basically a project.
Okay.
So can you have super badges? So people are looking at. I mean, people can sit there and do trail badges all day, right?
Okay.
But they're looking at super badges and seeing if you can actually look at the issue, trying to solve a solution, and then execute it.
Okay.
So if you start doing super badges and be like, look, I've done this before. This is how I would do it. This is how it required. What are the other gaps? So I would tell you right now, talking to other super badges are kind of, people are looking at that and they're really, really kind of like taking those into, it's kind of like the reset of all. It was like the reset of all, like being certified now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anybody else have any feedback there or any other questions? We have about 2 minutes left before we drop off here. But any final questions? What I will say is that at the conclusion of the call, I've been trying to do my best to take notes about all the topics that we covered, any kind of stuff that's been put in chat as far as like the trailheads and different recommended sites and whatnot. I'm putting all these notes into a Quip doc, and then in the office hours group within the VetForce community, I'll make sure that I put a link here to the Quip doc. So if anybody wants to access that, you can absolutely do so. But otherwise, again, any final questions before we wrap it up for what should hopefully be a nice long weekend? And you guys can still hear me, right? And I'm not dreaming, right? Because I just looked out the window. My son's actually cutting the grass without being told. So I'm starting to feel like maybe I hit my head or something. Okay. All right, cool. Well, if there's no questions, then like I said, I hope you guys all enjoy your long weekend, and I hope to connect next week. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate it.
Great.
See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.